here is Ferguson. Goes out. And into the arms of Buda Baker.
That was Monday Night Football. I thought we had changed our mind on that one. It's all right. Monday Night Football last night. The Cowboys lost. They're done. They stink. Why don't teams kick field goals anymore? They were 4th and goal on their opening drive, not from the 2, not from the 3-yard line, but from the 5-yard line, and they just went for it. The analytics, when you're not a good 4th down team and the Cowboys were 0 for last night, maybe you just kick a field goal early in the first quarter. Down 27-10, they had a 4th and 4, and they went for it, missed it again. I think I can do that math. 27-10-17, you're going to need 3 at some point. Kick the field goal. The Cardinals, by the way, capped off a 9-1 smell test weekend, 9-1. Now 40-41-6 on the season. That's 63%. I think the best year I ever had doing this was 64%. That was like 10 years ago, 64%. I've hit 60 plus many times, but not anything higher than 64. So anybody that tells you that, for an entire season, we hit it 75%, 80%, they're lying. It's impossible. I mean, what I'm doing right now is actually borderline impossible over 9 weeks to hit it 63%. But 9-1 with the Cardinals, concluding a pretty successful weekend. The only loser was the Giants +3, but I did have the Giants 49ers over in that game, and that sailed over the total, 34-24. Max is with me today. We are not going to have, we don't have any guests scheduled for today, correct, Max?
Correct. I have nothing booked. Yeah,
I said to Max yesterday, we got to get to, a lot more of you guys today. We got a lot to get to. A lot went on last night. College basketball kicked off last night. I watched my Terps beat Coppin State last night up in Baltimore. They've got an entirely new team, really like the freshman Darius Adams, like Saunders, the transfer from UVA. They got some good players. We've got some good players. It's going to take a while. The college basketball is now a sport in which, unless you've got returning stars, you have no idea about your team until you start to play games. And then really, like Coach Thompson used to say to me, I'll never forget one of my favorite Coach Thompson stories ever. I was babbling on and on during my show about Maryland beating somebody in like early November, mid-November. And he walked into the studio while Tommy and I were still in the air. He cracked the mic and he just said, "You are crazy, boy." And he said, nothing that happens in November in this sport matters at all. And I said quickly, it certainly doesn't matter when you're playing Hawaii Hilo and St. Leo, does it, Coach? One of my all-time favorite people. Miss all of those days very much so. But he was right. You really don't know anything about this sport until teams start to play their conference schedule. And that's still, a month and a half away, and you get a couple of them sprinkled in December. But Buzz Williams, first game as Terps coach, 1-0. They play Georgetown Friday night, Xfinity Center, College Park, 6 p.m. tip. I know that hurts a lot of people. But, it is what it is. Going to be a lot of people, I'm sure, taking off from work early on Friday to get there for that one. But the rivalry that was dormant for so long came back here and there, 2015, 2016, with the back and forth between Xfinity and Capital One, MCI, whatever it was then. Maryland won both of those games. But now we are set up to have this thing annually. At this time of year, and it'll be a very, very nice addition to the local sports calendar. For years, I made the case that this would be a top 5 event on the sports calendar annually. We're a different city than we were many, many years ago. We have become a true pro sports town, much more so than maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. There was a time, and many of you who are from here know this, you could argue that after the Skins, Maryland basketball was number 2. in terms of the popularity, in terms of the sellouts and the TV ratings and the whole thing. But we're much more of a pro sports town now than we've ever been, and very much so a bandwagon sports town. That's really what DC has become, other than the football team. Everybody else has to win. They've got to win big. Now, the Caps have their very dedicated audience, no doubt. There is a dedicated Caps following. They're going to be there win or lose, no doubt. But for everybody else, it really is, they got to win. They got to win big to get the attention. But Maryland, Georgetown, Friday night, can't wait for that. Trying to get, a couple of the coaches, or at least one of them, on the show before Friday. The Cowboys lose last night, 27-17. They fall to 3-5-1. They made a trade already today on trade deadline day. Or they're nearing a trade, according to Adam Schefter, for, get this, the Cowboys, who have a bad defense, are trading for a player from a worse defense, and it's a defensive player, linebacker Logan Wilson. The Cowboys are trading for. The two, along with Washington, the three worst defenses in the league, the Cowboys trying to upgrade their defense with a player from Cincinnati's defense. The Cowboys stink. And I got to tell you, man, I know Cowboy fans are going to kill me for this. I think Dak's a good quarterback. I've never thought that Dak's a great quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's good. Certainly top half of the league starter. Top 10, I know that the way he started the season, there was a lot of MVP talk. I don't see it, man. I just don't see him anywhere near the class of the true elite quarterbacks in the game. Jerry, talking about other trades, they have the Raiders after their bye week, and they were hoping last night would get them to 500, and then they'd be able to get to over 500 with a game against the Raiders. But like Cincinnati, like our team to a certain extent, when your defense is as bad as theirs, as bad as Cincinnati's, is as bad as ours, even if we didn't have all the injuries we had, and there was still, a good offense out on the field, it still would have been problematic because this defense is just horrific. Quinn did talk yesterday about defensive staff changes. You're going to hear all of that. But I do want to get to Frankie Louvu, by the way, suspended. I've got that on my list here, Max. Don't worry about it. Frankie Louvu suspended for his third hip drop tackle of the season. He can appeal it, but he's not going to play in the Detroit game if he chooses not to appeal. I think it's a stupid rule. I don't know how you play defense anymore. This is a rule that has not been called as much on the field as it has been fined since it was implemented in 2024. No hip drop tackles. And so the idea is after a third in the same season, it's a suspension. He can appeal it. We'll see if he wins. I've seen the videos of all three of the hip drop tackles that he's been fined for. I guess they're hip drop tackles. I don't know what you do with defensive players anymore. It's hard to play that position, especially the back seven, in particular, the back four for sure, with the defenseless receivers. And do you let them catch it and then tackle them? Do you try to time it up? What do you do? Hard to play the position defensively anymore. But I think a suspension's too much personally on that rule. I think fining them. Look, if you're going to suspend them, flag them during the game. But they don't want every tackle to be a 15-yarder. I get that too. All right. This was Dan Quinn yesterday talking about his lack of pulling Jaden Daniels out of the game before he got injured. This was him about 14, 15 hours later. This was him yesterday.
I know many of you have been asking about the thought process of Jaden being in the game in that situation. I get that. I've been thinking about it, honestly, nonstop too. And, for me, the answer is, man, I missed it. But I would, I'll fill you in on my thought process. At the start of the fourth quarter, I guess it was probably like 12 and a half minutes left in the game. And that was going to be the last drive for a couple of guys, Jaden and Zach and Debo and LT. And so we're going to have any read run plays, and meaning no carries, for the quarterback on a run. And honestly, man, that's where I missed it. Of course, he could scramble. It's Jaden. It's what he's special at, and that is 100%. That's on me. And I also said last night in the presser to our fans that, man, did we miss our mark as a team. And with that performance, we need to fix it. They created an awesome environment, at the stadium for the game, and that fix needs to be done now. So,
Dan Quinn. I actually said on the show yesterday, I said, I think there's a chance he will, do a mea culpa on what happened Sunday night, that he'll express regret for not pulling him out of the game. And he did. I like Dan Quinn. I like him a lot. I know some of you don't like him as much as you did last year because, well, the team won a lot last year, and this year the team's not winning. So, yeah, that's how those things work. I get it. I can appreciate very much and even respect that he expressed regret for not taking Jaden out of the game. I can, which, by the way, I still can't believe how many of you, and I've got some of those tweets and emails that I'm going to read. I still can't believe how many of you aren't exactly sure that that's what he should have done in the moment. To me, it's a subjective thing. To me, it just seems so obvious. So obvious. But anyway, look, he didn't need to, come out without being asked about it and express regret. I think that is, I can appreciate it. I can respect it. He didn't need to do it. I think he genuinely meant it. I don't think he was trying to placate people who said, what are you doing? Because this, by the way, turned into not only a big thing locally yesterday, nationally. I mean, the big national guys and national shows really absolutely crushed him for the decision not to pull the quarterback. But I think he genuinely meant it, and he went ahead and said it. But still, did anybody on his staff mention it to him? Was it discussed? This was not, he talked about how this was going to be the last drive. So maybe what they discussed was, yeah, we're going to put him out there for one more drive, and he's going to come out. And I do believe him. I don't think he's making that up. I think the last drive. Now, if he doesn't get hurt and they score at, to make it 38-14, and they're down 24 with 7.5 minutes to go, is he going to pull him, or is he going to try an onside kick with him still out there? I don't know. Maybe at the beginning of the drive, the idea was this is going to be it for him. It's going to be it for Ertz. It's going to be it for Tunsil or whomever else he mentioned there. But, now I'm probably starting to make the case, well, down 24 with 7.5 minutes to go. That's 3 touchdowns, 3 2-point conversions. Let's go at least try the onside kick. Never in the history of the game has a team been down 31 points midway through the fourth quarter and won the football game. Okay, never. It's never happened. It probably never will happen because of how, actually, let me amend that. It's going to happen in the future after they change the rule on the onside kick to a 4th and 15 or a 4th and 17, where they increase the chances of maintaining possession of the football when you're down via a scrimmage play rather than an onside kick. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, that is going to be discussed again this year. The percentage of onside kicks is so low, it's almost impossible. Cincinnati did it on Sunday against Chicago as part of their comeback in that game that they then gave it up on the other end, 47-42. What a wild game. Man, when you go into an NFL Sunday, you just have no idea which games are going to be the wildest of the day. Who had Chicago-Cincinnati 47-42? I guess after 39-38 last week, Jets, maybe it was a possibility. But there is a chance, certainly in the future, if they change the onside kick rule to giving teams the option of doing a 4th and 15 from their own 25-yard line, that you'll have those kinds of comebacks. And when we get to that rule, we can have those conversations. If the chances of converting 4th and 17 to maintain possession of the ball is at 20% rather than now, the onside kick is at 4% or whatever it is, we can have those conversations then. But in terms of today's game, today's rules, it's not going to happen, and it wasn't going to happen the other night. Not against that team with your team. It wasn't flukish that they were up 38-7. If that's even a thing, is that even possible for it to be flukish and up 38? It's flukish that you could be up 21-7, not 38-7. It wasn't going to happen because it's never happened. And then when you add into it, your team is bad and their team is great. Yeah, it's over. I appreciate and respect. I like Dan Quinn a lot. I think he's a good person from afar, but I think the fact that everybody in the league agrees on this. He's somebody who players adore, coaches adore. We've heard that forever. By the way, he was able to attract that incredible coaching staff. He's got a great staff, a deep staff. Where was all that experience? Didn't somebody get on the horn and say, Coach, he is under siege? Our guy just got back from hamstring, knee a month ago. He's gotten 3 quarters in. Let's call it a night here because we can't protect him. And, oh, by the way, he's got nobody to throw to because they can't get open. Now, if we're just going to hand the ball off 3 times and punt, that's fine. But they didn't do that. And he did talk about there, they didn't have any zone reads in the final drive. They didn't have any designed runs. But you've got a quarterback that's going to scramble if you drop him back, and you dropped him back a couple times. Now, the last play, for those of you that and there's so many of you that said, how does he call, where is it? From Jackson. Sheehan, Quinn can apologize all he wants, but how did he let Cliff Kingsbury call a read option play on the play he got hurt on? He didn't call a read option play, okay? That wasn't what it was. It was an RPO, run pass option. Read option, zone read are the same things, all right? The quarterback takes the ball, either gives it to the back or keeps it reading the D end and runs it himself. Now, there are some read option combo RPOs, but the read option or zone read, they're both the same thing, is the quarterback runs it or the running back runs it, okay? The RPO is a run pass option. Either the running back keeps the ball because the quarterback made the decision that he's not going to throw it, he's going to give it to the running back, or he pulls it and he throws it quickly to a receiver. That's what that play was. Why didn't he throw it to a receiver quickly? Because literally he was under duress, under pressure, instantaneously on the play, and he couldn't. Now, you can say, shouldn't call an RPO on that condensed field. True, condensed field makes it just easier for the defense to begin with. So the opportunity to get after the quarterback on an RPO and get that quick of pressure might be a little bit greater on a condensed field with everybody closer to the line of scrimmage than it would be in the middle of the field. I get that. So I don't like that they called an RPO either. I would have just handed the ball off. Or if you're going to let him throw it, it's shotgun, quick bubble screen, shotgun, quick game, quick hitch, nothing where there's a chance of him scrambling or getting sacked. But you can't do that with him. You can't do that with him because, he's a built-in, if it's not there, I'm good enough to go make a play. We don't need you to make a play this week at 38-7. We need you to make a play next week when the Lions come to town. This one is over. Look, the net of it is, I don't, it's not that I'm glad or not glad that he, did a mea culpa yesterday on it. It's that I appreciate it and respect it, but I also wonder, how did it happen? Like, where's the guy that's the game management guy in the booth that they hired from the league? Why am I blanking on his name? They have so many people, in the organization, and they hired the guy. Why am I blanking on the guy that has game management responsibilities? I know that's more replay or timeouts or, when to go for 2, when not to go for 2. What's that dude's name? Why couldn't he have said, hey, coach, just from big picture, watching this thing from up here, yeah, you probably want to start thinking about taking Jaden out for sure, and maybe some of the other key guys, get some young guys in there. Where was somebody maybe they did. Maybe they did. He didn't really elaborate on that yesterday, And maybe that's exactly what happened. And they all just agreed one more series. One more was one too many, obviously. That's going to be a hard one. It's going to be a hard one. I mean, he doesn't need us. He doesn't need me. He doesn't need anybody else to say, "Hey, don't worry about it. Mistakes." And I'm with you on that. Everybody makes mistakes, but it's going to be tough to live that one down. We'll remember that one. That's one we'll remember. By the way, slightly different than the RG3 thing. Stop with the RG3 comparison. And I did not watch the RG3 video. I can't even look at him anymore. It just, I guess what he put out was a 2.5-minute video saying should have pulled him from the game, like making it about himself again. Max, you watched it. You told me about it. My sons watched it.
I watched it with the sound off. Let's be honest.
Whatever. Why do I mean, he's going to take every opportunity, and I'm speaking without the information here, which, by the way, happens on occasion. In this business, sometimes you have no idea what you're talking about. But I'll take your word and the others that essentially it was another attempt to inject himself into the Washington quarterback conversation and, make sure that everybody remembers he should have been pulled as well. Slightly different circumstances, like a playoff game that you're leading 14-0 in, or at that point it was maybe 14-3, whatever it was, in the second quarter. Secondly, you got your, doctor on this at halftime telling the head coach has told us this in no, uncertain terms. Yeah, Kirk was going out to start the second half. I had pulled him. We were not going to let him play. Kirk was getting ready to start the second half, and then they emerged from a room or a closet, and the doctor said to me, it was the brace. The brace is what the problem was, so we've readjusted the brace. He'll be fine. Okay. Yeah, I you just can't. Those are those are the big ones, man. Those are the big decisions. That's the franchise quarterback. You got to take care of them, and I can appreciate and respect that after, a day to think about it. And who knows, every one of us in that same position, the pressure, the game, the emotion, the whole thing, the competitiveness, if you've got that in you, maybe you're like, maybe you don't think of it either. I understand all that, all of it, but can't forget that one. That one is an all-time, just did not make sense. Did not make sense. This from Herbert. Herbert writes, Kevin, longtime listener here, brother. I live in San Diego and never up early enough to call in. I hope this message gets to you. I completely agree with you that DQ committed malpractice with leaving Jaden in the game. However, what is also getting overlooked is Jaden's poor decision-making. That play was never designed for him to keep it. He decided to play hero ball and put himself in danger, which he has done countless times before. DQ said if they ran that play 50 times, then 50 times it would have been a handoff. Please speak to this. I would love to hear your thoughts on JD's accountability for this too, your fellow Redskins fan, Herb. Yeah, I think what DQ said after the game was 50 times you run it, it's either going to be a run or a quick throw. Yeah, I know what he said. There was a lot of, I don't want to be overly critical here. I said this yesterday when we played some of that sound. It didn't make a lot of sense. Go ahead and play it.
Yeah, obviously I'm just gutted by it. I'm just bummed. We didn't have any read plays on it, and the one that he was on injured is, usually a runner or a throw to the flat. It's not a scramble, so it wasn't a designed read or play, into that spot. If we run it, 50 times, it's either a handoff or a throw. I'd say 50 times.
Yeah. Okay, he was clear on that. So my fault, Herbert. Hopefully you heard that. It's an RPO. It's a run pass option. So he's saying 50 times typically he's either handing it off or he's throwing it quickly. With an RPO, you have to throw it quickly because if not, you're going to have ineligibles downfield. The ball has to come out immediately. It didn't come out immediately because there was a guy right in his face right when he pulled it. Now, maybe he should have given it, and maybe they should have expressly said, this is an RPO coming in, but you're to hand the ball off to Rodriguez, period. We don't want any risk here. But they called the RPO. You can criticize that, but Quinn's not wrong. And an RPO pretty much always it's going to be a handoff or it's going to be a quick throw. Now, you do see RPOs where the quarterback will pull it, try to throw it, and then, can't throw it, and then he's got to run. So there are some plays in which the quarterback does end up scrambling on an RPO. I should take that back. 50 out of 50 is not true. The coach is wrong on that. It's probably 45 out of 50. It's probably 90% of the time. It's either a handoff or a quick throw. And 10% of the time, they don't hand it off. They can't make the quick throw that they thought they could make, and they pull it and they try to make something happen. And at that point, by the way, you can't throw the ball away. I mean, you can when you're down 38-7, but it's going to be a penalty. It's going to be ineligible downfield. Yeah. All right. Well, he said a lot more yesterday. I want to play a lot more of it for you, including about the defensive staff. And he did make a change to the way the defensive staff is coaching. You'll hear what that is when we come back. Also, we missed a lot of you yesterday. If you want to get on the phones and talk about the decision and then the mea culpa by Dan Quinn, 301-230-0980, or anything else now that we are about 36 hours post-haste from Sunday night with really a season that is dangling by a thread, if not over. It's not mathematically over, but it kind of feels like it's over. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com. We'll play for you in a few minutes what Dan Quinn said about defensive changes. There is a change that he's making. And phone lines are open at 301-230-0980. I'll get to your calls too. But a couple of more tweets and emails I wanted to read. This one from Len. Len writes, "Hello, Kevin. Big fan, though not a DC resident. Think you're wrong about the Jaden Daniels end of game take. The GOAT of all coaches, Belichick, when asked about never ever pulling the GOAT of all quarterbacks, Brady, regardless of score, he once said, a football player is a football player. It doesn't matter what position he plays. Even after Brady lost a full season to a debilitating knee injury, when he returned, he played every snap until the end of the game. Because in Belichick's mind, he was a football player. You may disagree with the decision, but the difference is philosophical, not negligence. You're simply on the other side. Regards, Len." Thank you, Len. Yeah, let me be clear, because I thought I was clear yesterday. 8 times out of 10 in the past, I'm for compete till the end. They're football players, they're competitors, finish it out. But I felt like this was totally unique. This was different than that. And this required, more, of kind of an in the feel call. All due respect to Belichick and Brady, I'd like to know how many games when Brady came back, if any, I doubt this ever happened, where they were down 28-0. Okay, the Super Bowl. Hold on. The Super Bowl, which Quinn coached in. Yeah, good one. Glad that just popped into my mind. But back to the point here. I'd like to know, other than in the Super Bowl, how many times Brady and Belichick were down 38-7 with 12 minutes to go in the game, which is when Quinn decided to put Jaden back out there. The answer is probably never. I'd also like to know if, in that particular circumstance, if they were down 38-7, was Brady just coming back from missing a game due to a hamstring injury? And then what was the play calling at the end? Because they dropped him back twice in that final drive and then ran the RPO on the last play. Again, apples and oranges, Len, apples and oranges. I agree. And I said yesterday, most times, and I think most people who have listened would be surprised that I was in the moment so adamant about pulling Jaden. It was the circumstance. It was the context. It just made sense based on the context. Not to mention they were getting their ass kicked. How many times did that happen in the history of Brady and Belichick? Well, the Super Bowl, I guess, 28-3. This from Randy. Randy writes, "Is this what they call the cliff? That's a good one, Randy. It's a good one. This is actually probably what they call Cliff about to jump from a cliff because of what he has in terms of trying to scheme around. For those that don't remember what the Cliff thing was, when Cliff got hired as the offensive coordinator here, there were a bunch of people, college football people too, that basically said, be careful. Cliff's offenses, they essentially midway through the season, late in the season, they fall off the cliff. They start to regress significantly. And if you went back and did even a minimal amount of research, you knew that that was really a false narrative. That the reason, it was true that statistically they would take a step back in yardage per game, in points per game. But the reasons for it wasn't, they weren't because Cliff all of a sudden got figured out. Like I remember during those days, I would say, explain to me how if they figure him out halfway through a season, why they don't start the next season having him already figured out. But the real reasons for it is that they would play the, Sam Houston States of the world and roll up 70 and 700 yards in September with a week schedule. And then when they got into conference play, obviously they were playing better teams. So their numbers and their yardage and their offensive efficiency were still off the charts great in a lot of those years at Texas Tech. But they had better competition, and his teams in college were horrible defensively. Like if they lost games and you wanted to call that the cliff, it was like 48-45 or 56-42. It wasn't because of their offense. And then in Arizona, they had actually significant injuries. They had Hopkins and the quarterbacks that were injured towards the end of the year, and the competition was different. So yeah, that was what the Cliff was about, and I think it was easy to punch holes in that with just minimal research. But yeah, look, this is another one on Cliff. It comes from Carl. Carl writes, Kevin, I understand the injuries and limitations, but why can't our whiz kid OC scheme something up? Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan have endured injuries as well and succeeded. Why not genius Kingsbury? Yeah, so that's a good question. Like, first of all, let me just say, I don't think Kingsbury is in the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan class. Let's start with that. I think Kingsbury's a very good offensive mind. I think he's very creative. I think we saw that last year with all the bodies out on the field. With a rookie quarterback, I think we saw a lot of what he's able to do. And by the way, they were limited last year. But it's a good question because I think, like, you know, the last couple of games, it's like, can't he scheme people open if they can't get open on their own? You know, McVay would be able to do it. Kyle Shanahan would be able to do it. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair question. Like, I think he's trying. I think there are a couple of things here, though, in play with Kingsbury and this specific team versus, say, the Sean McVay team that was struggling last year at the beginning of the year. Remember, they were very hurt at the beginning of last year, and they really struggled. And they didn't, by the way, overcome it early in 2024 when they had all the injuries. They started that season out 1-4. And they were struggling to score. I mean, Arizona beat them, and I want to look at it. I think it was 48-10 in a game early in the season last year. They were 1-4 last year with all the injuries early in the season. All right, major injuries, defensively, offensive line, etc. They started 1-4. They lost to Arizona in week 2 last year, 41-10, and they couldn't score. They lost 24-18 against the Bears, 24-19. Even when they came back and they won a couple games, they didn't get the offense rolling until like midseason. And then last year, if you recall, towards the end of the year, they were struggling to score again. But then in the playoffs, you know, they got the Minnesota win. Defense was a big part of that one. And then they almost came back and beat Philly in the snow. It's true. And let's also remember, Kyle Shanahan didn't overcome all of those injuries last year. They went 6-11. But I do think it's like an interesting question to consider. Washington right now just doesn't have receivers that can win. That's a massive problem, okay, offensively. They don't have receivers who can win on the field. Terry's not a big-time winner, you know, as a receiver off the line of scrimmage. He is a great, elite-level contested catch guy. But why does he, you know, lead the league, or why is he always up there in contested catches? Because they are contested. He doesn't get the kind of separation that you saw Jackson Smith and Najigba get the other night, as an example. Justin Jefferson, some of the real great receivers in the league. But it doesn't. So back to, why can't Cliff scheme some stuff open? Look, if we just take the other night, I mean, he schemed stuff open against the Chargers, who are a pretty good defense. You know, why did that happen? Well, part of it was the game was competitive. Like, the score was competitive. You know, the Cowboy game, you know, they did scheme up some stuff. They moved the football. They had 15 at halftime and over 200 yards. They were driving when he got hurt in the third quarter. And then, you know, against the Bears, they obviously schemed up, you know, 3 turnovers killed them. Look, against the Chiefs, he schemed up offense. They moved the ball into Chiefs territory 5 out of 6 times in that game. But I think if we're going to look at Sunday night and say, why couldn't anybody get open? You would look at a couple of things. You would look at, number one is they didn't feel going into the game that they could run the football. Remember, with Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan in particular, what is the, you know, root of everything successful that ends up being successful in their offense? It's the run game. They didn't feel like they could run it early. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe they could have run it. They were the number one rush defense in the league. They were allowing 3.3 yards per carry. And Washington in recent weeks hadn't exactly lit it up because teams could effectively load the box because they knew they didn't need help covering the receivers that they're putting out there. But I think, maybe that was a mistake. But I would also say this. When it's 28-0 after you've blinked twice, forget it. Like, all's thrown out the table. Like, when we're talking about McVay and Kyle Shanahan, we're talking about two coaches, by the way, who have schemed up some good offense with a different, overall situation, right? Good defenses in San Francisco and always the ability to run the football, which makes it easier to scheme people open when bootleg and play action. That's not Cliff's offense. If you want to quibble or argue that it's not an offense that you can overcome injuries with, okay, you might be right. But I would just point to Seattle was different, really different than the Kansas City game, the Dallas game, and the Bears game, and the Chargers game. Like, going back to all these injury games, right? Like, the Chargers schemed up a lot, but the score context was within reach. The Bears game with more than within reach. Cowboys game first half within reach on the move in the third quarter, down 27-15 within reach. The first half of the Chiefs game, they moved the football on every drive. But you know what he can't overcome? He can't overcome 3 turnovers, no get-backs in the Chicago game, 2 turnovers, no get-backs in the Cowboy game, and a crucial turnover against the Chiefs on the opening drive of the game. And then on Sunday night, 3 penalties, 3 to start your 3 drives that derailed drives that actually the second one, you're at the Seattle 40-yard line. It's 3rd and 2. And you get the quarterback that on a quarterback keeper that scrambles, gets out of bounds, 6-7 yards moving the chains, and Chris Paul grabs somebody's face mask. So, yeah, I'm not ready to shoot Cliff Kingsbury. No, not this year. This is not a Cliff. This is a Cliff about to jump off a cliff because he's working with very little right now. Very little. And when they do produce something, they shoot themselves in the foot. Turnovers, penalties have killed them in these games. Chicago game, Cowboys game, Chiefs game, Seahawks game. Now, the Seahawks game, I don't think there's anything. And, back to McVay and Kyle, remember, too, one of the reasons the games were in play is because they had good defenses. Washington has a pathetic defense. So you have to score every single time. In fact, the other night they needed to score twice on each drive to have a chance in that game. All right, what Quinn said about Joe Witt Jr. yesterday and other defensive staff changes when asked, and the change he did make, and then we'll get to your calls. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com.
All right, it is Tuesday. Here's what's happening. The Cowboys, they lost on Monday Night Football to the Cardinals 27-17. The Cardinals' stout defense held the Cowboys' offense to just 1 touchdown throughout the game. Marvin Harrison had a career-high 7 catches for 96 yards and a tud. The Wizards, they took on the Knicks last night. Alex Sarr coming into his own with 19 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, but no match for Karl Anthony Towns, who put up 33, 13, and 5 of his own. We move to, and the Wizards, they fall 119-102. Trade deadline day across the NFL. We are mere hours away from the 4 p.m. deadline, and the Cowboys are reportedly nearing a trade with the Cincinnati Bengals for linebacker Logan Wilson, and the Eagles have already traded for Jair Alexander over the weekend from the Ravens and edge rusher Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins. The Commanders have reportedly received interest on O-lineman Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti. We will have all the Commanders trade info for you and more right here on the Team 980. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1. You can catch Denton's office throughout all of football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
And I know you said no changes coming on the defensive staff, but what about moving guys around, maybe bringing Joe Witt down to the field? Any of that under consideration?
Yeah, you might have some insider scoop going on there, JP. We are going to do that, and so Joe will move down from the press box onto the field this week, and we're going to dig in hard on changes we can make, to make an impact and make a difference, and that's one that we will do.
Does anybody think that's going to work? I mean, I'm fine with them doing that. I hope it does work. Joe Witt Jr., he can communicate, and maybe being closer to the action will help. But, he's not working with a whole lot either here. But he's got a track record here of now 29 games with the defense being pretty poor in about 22 to 23 of those 29. This is the, we got to do something now. We gave up 330 yards and 4 touchdowns and no incompletions to the quarterback on Sunday night. We might have to do something this time. Yeah, we'll move him down from the booth. Remember, Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, moved down from the booth to the sideline for the Washington game, and it seemed to work that first week. He was also asked if, he was considering any defensive staff changes. Do you have that soundbite, Max?
I do. He kind of just goes into breaking down the plays and exactly
I want to hear
what
it,
happened.
though.
Yeah,
I read
absolutely.
it. I want to hear it.
All right.
And then, two, the defensive struggles have continued for a while. You said you'll look at everything. Are you at the point now where you're considering any changes with your defensive staff at all?
No, I was honestly, the 3 TDs that just burned me up on the second TD was like a 3rd and 8. We doubled Smith and Jigba. We got beaten man to man by a different player. The 3rd TD was the first play after a fumble on a kickoff return. I believe it was right around 25, 26 yard line. It was man to man on a seam route. So those weren't confusing calls. And the toughest of all was a cover 3, the 4th TD. The quarterback got, caught up on a run fake. Ball over top. We also missed a tackle on that play. So the executing, man, John, it's players, it's coaches, it's all of us, man. And we're capable of playing these calls and playing them better. And I'm certain of it. My belief in the players is high and the staff is high. We've got to get this job done, man. It was extremely frustrating. And, we're going to look at everything, man, to make sure, like, whatever we need to do to play our best, we're going to find a way to do that.
All right, he answered that before, and if you missed the beginning to the first part of it, he said no, honestly, on any defensive staff changes. But then later, when J.P. Finley asked him the question, he said they're going to move Joe Witt Jr. down from the sideline. We'll see if that helps against a Detroit Lions team coming in that can really move the football and really score, but lost on Sunday outright to J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings. Who knows? Maybe there's an opportunity here. By the way, in listening to him talk about, the kickoff return that was fumbled by Jalen Lane from TD3, what happened to Brian Mitchell 2, Sheehan? Jalen Lane on punt returns? Think you missed that one. Well, maybe I missed that one. I guess that's possible. That I missed that one. Do you know how many total punt returns Jalen Lane's had this year? 11 total in the 9 games played this year. He's averaging 13.1 yards per return. That's actually, I think, for at least 10 returns on the year. I think that's 5th or 6th in the league. But obviously the 190-yarder skewed it heavily in that direction. The problem, of course, is, he's not getting many opportunities. Why? Because the defense doesn't make the other team punt very much. And when they do punt, they've already moved it out to, midfield. So there's a punt, inside the 20 that you're either fair catching or letting hit and go into the end zone, et cetera. So, yeah, I'd like to see him get more opportunities. That'd be nice. They put Debo back on kickoff returns after McCaffrey got hurt the other night. They also had Treylon Burks back on kickoff returns. They're running out of options here. But on the Jalen Lane thing, you can't fumble the kickoff return because he did have that one. And that led to 21-0, right? It was 14-0, and then it's 21-0. Yeah. That game got over pretty quickly. But I still like Jalen Lane as a punt returner. I don't love him as a receiver, that's for sure. But I like him as a punt returner. I think there's, a future for him as a punt returner. I think we've seen enough to know that there's a really good chance. He's just got to be on a team where they get, the other team to actually punt occasionally. That would be nice. All right. I see your calls. We have a line open or two if you want to jump on 301-230-0980. We'll get to your calls. We've had, about 36 hours or so, roughly, to digest what happened to us Sunday night. So have at it, including the mea culpa yesterday from the head coach, Dan Quinn, about not pulling Jaden Daniels. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, the team980.com. We're free and live in the Odyssey app. Don't forget, you can watch us on the Team 980's YouTube channel, and know that all of our NFL discussion is presented by Paramount Plus, streaming November 16th on Paramount Plus. It's the return of Landman. What a show. From Taylor Sheridan, co-creator of Yellowstone, Academy Award-winning Billy Bob Thornton is back, featuring Academy Award nominees Demi Moore, Andy Garcia, and Sam Elliott. Landman, new season, streaming November 16th, only on Paramount Plus. I would add, Ali Larder's pretty good in this show, too. Can't wait for that. And, by the way, Stranger Things, season 5. Probably shouldn't have mentioned that on the heels of the Paramount spot. We'll do the Paramount spot again later in the show, Max. Your call's next. From my guy Joe Arrow, Kingsbury's head coaching aspirations may be cooling off for the coming off season. He may have wished he took an offer after last year. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I think, look, when you're in the league, they understand why things happen. It's not like they're just looking at the results. Oh my God, Washington's 3-6. The core, I mean, can't even consider Cliff Kingsbury. No, they know what's happened. They know that they have been literally damaged beyond belief by not just, a high number of injuries, but as we've talked about now for a few weeks running, injuries to their most critical players. That's the key in this injury conversation, is that it's not just that they've lost a lot of man games due to losing injured players. It's that it's all of their best players that they keep losing for games or for the season. It's QB1, it's RB1, it's wide receiver 1. It's, potentially OT1. We'll see. They had OG1 missing for the first 6 games. They knew that coming in. And then, the D-end 1, defensive player number 1, pass rusher number 1, run stopper number 1. I hate referring to Lattimore as DB number 1, but we did think that maybe that was the case coming into the season, although there was a lot of Tramus defensive rookie of the year talk as well. All right, your chance 36 hours after the absolute, beatdown of all of these beatdowns. I saw something that somebody sent to me that said that Washington has now lost 3 consecutive games by 21 or more, and that has not happened in like 5 years. That surprises me that hasn't happened in more than in 5 years. I mean, look, the NFL's close and you end up with a lot of close games. 100% true. I just thought it would have happened to somebody else along the way, but I guess not. The 2023 season, though, that's the team. Like, I had a friend of mine say this season's unraveling worse than any other team. And I'm like, no, I've got a really good memory when it comes to bad seasons. Like 2023 was a terrible, terrible season. That season ended. I'm surprised that they didn't have 3 straight, but you know why they didn't? Because Jacoby Brissett came in. Jacoby Brissett came in for, horrible Sam Howell, but they had lost 45-10 to Dallas on Thanksgiving Day, 45-15 to the Dolphins. And then Jacoby Brissett got in the game, and they had 2 close games back-to-back against the Rams and the Jets. Thankfully, he didn't do what he did last night and win one of those 2 games, because they would have never had the number 2 pick in the draft last year. I thought the 2023 season unraveled in the ugliest of ways. Coach everybody about to get fired clearly had come to the conclusion the quarterback actually wasn't any good. After watching last night, Jacoby Brissett's one of those dudes. He's been in so many locker rooms. He's beloved. He's smart. He's all of those things, but he's always, been on the periphery of being a starter versus a backup. If he had started the 2023 season, I'm not saying they would have been a playoff team. They would not have been a playoff team, but they probably would have gone like 8-9 or 7-10, not 4-13. So the good news is Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell gave us the number 2 pick in the draft. 2019 was an utter disaster. Jay Gruden's final year. Weren't they getting hammered at the end of that year? Pretty much the Cowboys hammered them. 2014 and 2013 were disasters. Yeah, there's been a lot. I mean, we've got a lot of experience around here with seasons, basically turning into total, 4-alarm fires. I would say this: I don't see any sign of the team bailing. I don't see any of that. The frustrating performance from the other night, really, honestly, was Ertz for me. Ertz seemed on those 2 false starts, which were actually drive killers, because one of them was a 4th and 1 from their own 29. I thought that he was, without his highest level of concentration, shall we say. All right, your turn. Jason. Jason's calling from Denver. Jason, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. Just a little concerned that Quinn's being Mr. Nice Guy with Joe Witt Jr. We just had this with Rivera and Del Rio, where he hung on way past his expiration date. I think we need to see who else we got on staff that could take over or start looking.
Yeah, I can't. Look, at this point, because of who's not out there, and because it's garbage in a lot of other spots. Like I'm with you. I don't want to. You're right. You're 100% right. I think there's probably a bit of loyalty here at work. At the same time, it's justifiable in the moment because the 4-game losing skid started with 3 turnovers against Chicago. So even though the defense was horrendous that night, you could point to other reasons. The Cowboys game, as bad as the defense was, the offense turned the ball over twice, had multiple drops and penalties. The Chiefs game, they actually probably played the best half of the season against the Chiefs. But you're not wrong that from my perspective, I've considered the same thing, that there is a nice guy loyalty element here. I guess the question that needs an answer is, would it help right now to get that scalp that Paulie wanted yesterday? Would it actually help them? They have nobody that can play. They literally have nobody that can cover in man-to-man coverage out there anymore. They literally have nobody that can rush the passer with what they've lost. So I hear you. I don't think I bet you're not wrong, but I also think that he's able to kind of justify it in his own mind because it's almost everything that's an issue here. Thanks, Jason. Let's go to Greg in Gaithersburg. Greg, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, good morning. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. The problem is you take the wind out of my sails most of the time, but I think they should just let it ride. I mean, the coaches, yeah, they could be the problem, but if you don't give them the tools to work with, they can't get the job done. I mean, our defense, I guess from watching the game, the defensive line out of the whole defense probably did the best performing. I didn't hear Deron Payne's name called much, but once you get into the linebackers in the secondary, it's history. I mean, people do what they want. They're in a zone coverage that leaves the middle open all the time, and that's where these teams seem to be going. And then the team's got 3rd and 5, 3rd and 8, and they're playing 12 yards off the receivers. It just doesn't make sense to me. But
I think what you got to see now is you got to see, and we've already seen it. You got to see more Jordan McGee on the field. You got to see more Tyler Owens on the field. He got beat the other night. You're at that point almost. Maybe it's not exactly at this point where you've got to play some of the younger players on offense too. And you got to see what you have. Look, today's a big day, and we haven't addressed it yet. There's a trade deadline, so we're going to get to that here probably before the end of this hour. But in terms of the other night, they literally had no pass rush, none. Sam Darnold was pressured on 12.7% of his dropbacks, the lowest of his career. On a quarterback that you have to get pressure on because that's when he makes mistakes.
Quick question. Years ago, we're probably around the same age. When you were playing a team, and I remember watching Fran Tarkington that had a big pass rush, the offenses usually moved the pocket. They'd roll the pocket to the left or the right, depending what was better. I never see that. I rarely see that. I mean, Jaden goes out of the pocket when he's getting blitzed because he has to, but they never move the pocket. And I've always wondered why they don't incorporate that into their offense.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because as you're describing it, Tarkington, like just go back to the, years later after Tarkington, which is still years from now, but years ago from here. But 91, how many of those deep throws by Rippon was on a moved pocket? They, sprint right and then throw back, to Monk or Clark or Sanders, on the opposite side of the field, deep ball. Like you don't see that a lot in the NFL. Now, where you see it is you see it on boots, and that's not really a moving of the pocket, although it does move with the boot, but it's actually moving away from the run action, and it's kind of naked out there. And the quarterback has, typically 2, sometimes 3 layers of throws he can make. They're supposed to read deep to short. And we see, on those bootlegs, it typically will end up short to the fullback or to the tight end out in the flat, and you'll get 6 or 7 yards. Or sometimes if everybody's covered, the quarterback will keep it and run. But yeah, there's not a lot of that. Look, the bottom line with a team that's as limited as this one is at wide receiver right now is somehow you've got to scheme up a run game. You've got to be able to run the football, because what allows for a limited group of wide receivers to actually get some separation is play action and bootleg off of a run game, where, you're legitimately running the football, and now you've got to suck, everybody up to stop it. And I think that's got to be the change here in the next few weeks. And I don't know if it's, Krosky, Merritt, or Rodriguez. I'd like to see Rodriguez get 18, 19, 20 carries and see what that looks like. But they're going to have to try to run the football, because part of it is the complementary aspect of it. You can't continue to penalize yourself out of a drive, turn over yourself out of a drive, and put that hideous defense back out onto the field. Like you got to make it count. Like, 7 plays, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and a score, even if it's 3. And you're going to go for 4th downs with this defense. The whole thing's out of whack because you're so bad defensively that there's no margin for error on offense. None. And they've not even come close to being clean offensively, in the last few games. They've moved the football here and there, but they end up with penalties. They end up with turnovers. They end up with drops. Can't do that when you are that bad on the other side of the football. But interesting point about the moving of the pocket. Yeah, I think Kansas City does it some. I'm trying to think of the quarterbacks in the game. It happens, but not as much as it used to your point, Greg. Bob in Ocean City. Bob, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
To it,
Bob.
Kevin, right there.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah, Kevin. Listen, now you're getting to it. It's their running game. It's their lack of keeping the ball. If we got it, they can't score with it. It's their lack of power running the game. It's their lack of double teaming the person at the point of attack. It's the lack of having 2 tight ends and maybe a jumbo tackle out there. The rest of the season, that's all you need to do.
You know what? I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm going 13. I'm going 12. I'm showing heavy. I'm running it, but I'm also throwing out of that, because at least you get a different personnel group defensively that maybe, a back or a tight end can get open against somebody. Yeah, I think we got to see
Kevin.
Some of that. Yeah.
Kevin, this guy,
Bob,
offensive scheme will kill quarterbacks, because James never going to give up on any play, and that is his worst quality. Love the guy, everything about him. You want him standing up. You want him behind center. He can turn to back on a defense and still make the proper throw.
Look, the Kingsbury system. Thanks, Bob. The Kingsbury system's killing quarterbacks. You just don't want Jaden to run? Is that it?
Listen, I don't want to listen. This play where we run the option and read the end, whatever you want to call that.
Yep.
You run that 5 times a game only.
Yeah.
Everybody only runs it 3 to 5 times, and they're getting 10, 12 yards on it. We run it as our bread and butter.
No, we don't.
That's
not true.
out the bread and butter.
It's not their bread and butter. They run duo. They run a lot of gap stuff. It's not their bread and butter. The zone read is not their bread and butter. It's more than 3 to 5 times. I would agree with you, even when Jaden doesn't keep it 3 to 5 times a game. But it's not their bread and butter. His bread and butter changes each week. That's part of the issue with some of you, is that there's not a real identity this year. Hard to create an identity. Yeah. The identity last year was, look, they were able to hit you with big plays. They were able to hit you horizontally. They were able to hit you with the quarterback in the run game, without the quarterback in the run game. And then obviously off schedule, they murdered you last year. Murdered you.
Kevin,
thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. I got to get some other calls. Let's go to Ian. Ian, go ahead.
We've talked a lot about Peters, Kingsbury, Quinn, and I appreciate Quinn saying that, but like we said on DM, this is the third time now. It's the Green Bay game, you referenced the Tampa Bay opener last year, and now this, where you're really asking yourself, how does this decision keep happening? And for all the people who are like, oh, it's football, you can get hurt at any time, you're right that there's context given his injury, coming off injury, the quality of the game, the number of injuries to the entire team. Of course he should have been taken out. But to me, the higher level concern is going forward is we can talk about Peters, we can talk about Quinn, we can talk about Kingsbury, but are we looking at a quarterback that takes an inordinate amount of hits given his frame, which was your concern and many people's concern when he was drafted? And, Aqib Talib said on his show, he's doing running back things and he's getting running back problems. And I think that's a very simple way to look at Jaden Daniels is he's an exceptional player, and I'm not comping him to RG3 in any way in terms of his ability of passing and comprehension of offense, but I am comparing him in that he takes a lot of hits, and he eventually, it's just not going to go the way you want for a player with his frame.
I understand what I'm about to say, that there is separation from he takes a lot of hits versus these specific hits in which he got hurt on. The only hit in which he was legitimately hurt on a play that if you want to argue you don't want quarterbacks to run those plays, was the read option keeper where he hurt his rib against Carolina last year. That was a read option 50-yard run that at the end of the run, he injured his rib. This year, it was a scramble against the Packers. It was a quick, immediate pressure against the Cowboys in the pocket. And then this one was very, very flukish, okay? It's an RPO. You and I agree, okay? He should not have been in the game. I think most reasonable people, even the people that are like, no, you finished the GD game. You don't. The context was completely different on Sunday night. So we've exhausted that topic. But it was flukish what happened to his left elbow on the tackle. Flukish. But it doesn't. I'm not separating that from the larger conversation of when you play a quarterback this way, just like Baltimore does with Lamar Jackson, just like Buffalo does with Josh Allen. He's a much bigger human being. We understand that. You are going to be more susceptible to your quarterbacks taking hits. The plays that I hate, options are typically plays in which the quarterback can avoid contact. Scrambles, often they can avoid contact. Getting sacked in the pocket is just as dangerous as anything else. The plays that I hate the quarterback designed counters and powers. Those are the plays that I've been screaming going back to last year's opener. Why would you want him in a pile at the end of a play? And they keep running those. They did not. They ran one of those the other night. The touchdown run was that play. Was a quarterback keeper on I think it was a counter. But yeah, they've made the Tampa game last year and Sunday night were the two biggest mistakes. The Green Bay game is theoretically still in play at 27-10 when he got hurt, right? 27-10. He stayed in, They scored the touchdown. They got the 2-point conversion to make it 27-18. So I have less of an issue with that one. The Tampa game in the opener last year when he's running zone reads at the goal line down 37-13 with 2 minutes to go was insanity. And then the other night was completely malpractice. What else you got?
And to kind of go back on that point is, I think if you heard on the broadcast, they talked about that when Kingsbury or Perico referenced that Kingsbury's like, look, I script plays on first and second down, but a lot of times Jaden's calling the plays on third down. Like, some of this has to come back on him. And that's my biggest level of concern going forward.
On the quarterback, you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. And I think he has to bear some responsibility here,
Yeah. The other night, the responsibility wasn't on him. It was on the head coach and the staff, because the play he got hurt on, he should have never been in the game. And that's not his call. A quarterback, a player is never going to opt out of the game himself.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I just think the number of hits, the accumulation of hits for me is the red flag with him going forward.
Yep. I mean, it's been the red flag with even Lamar Jackson. He's missed a lot of games, over the course of his career. I think, thank you for the call, Ian. I think that the biggest thing they've got to think about moving forward is they have to become a better running football team. Not to sound like the guys are like, got to run the football, but I think they've got to become a better and more efforted running football team. Certainly this year they do. Look, Marcus Mariota is going to be a part of the run game on Sunday because that's what he does best. It's not necessarily what Jaden does best. Jaden does a lot of things at a super high level, but Marcus Mariota's, superpower, if he has one, is as a true dual threat quarterback. We saw that in the Kansas City game. Early on. He's going to be a part of the run game. Sunday against the Lions, you got to try to run the football with the quarterback, with the running back, with everybody. You've got to, that'll give you a chance to throw it more successfully. That'll give you a chance, by the way, to stay in a game because the worst part of your team won't be on the field. All right, those of you on hold, stay there. We'll take more calls. We'll go around the NFL, too. We did not have a chance to do that. But Jason, Dre, Chad, Dave, Cam, G, Paulie, everybody on hold, stay there. More of your calls next. you want to do some trade deadline talk and you want to weigh in on that, you can have at it. Whatever. This is Open Phone Tuesday here. New segment when you're 3-6 and you've lost 3 straight games by 21 or more. Deadline, we'll keep you posted all day long, so keep it here on 980 when news breaks. We'll have it if they're making any trades. Look, I said this yesterday, and it goes in line with what I said last week. I did not want to be a seller at the deadline, even if they lost the game. But if they lost the game and, God forbid, lost Jaden, then I would be a seller. And so that's what happened Sunday night. So I am a seller. Still, by the way, in terms of time, lost, we still don't have all of the details on the injury. We know it was an elbow dislocation. We don't know about the severity of it, the amount of games he's going to miss, other than he's going to miss games, plural, more probably coming either later today or tomorrow on that. All right, let's go to Chad in Pennsylvania. Chad, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Hey, Kev, thanks for taking my call. Just a couple points. I absolutely agree with you. The run game, they're going to have to go back to like that 20-22 style with Heineke, and then where you have to possess the ball 5, 6, 7 minutes and win a couple low-scoring games like they did on that mini run in the middle of the season that year. That's the only way to keep this horrific defense off the field. So if you got to win a game 17-15, you got to do it that way. Another second point is everyone ripping on Peters. You guys got to chill. I mean, he took a swing, he went for it, he ran it back. Injuries, it's not an excuse. You've been saying it for weeks. It's a fact. You can't win this many games. You can't win games when you're this injured. I mean, just relax on Peters. He ran it back. I mean, if he wouldn't have ran it back, I would have been disappointed. He signed Tunsil. He tried to build it up. He went back with the 1-year deals. Today, I am with you. I would like him to see move some guys on expiring contracts and 1-year guys and some veterans. Just ease up on Peters, guys. Remember where we are here. It's year 2. Take a deep breath. And, I actually got a funny feeling they might win on Sunday. So maybe I'm crazy, but I think if they just dumb it down, run the football, keep the Detroit offense off the field, which is easier said than done, I know. But I'm not giving up quite yet, but I would like to see them move a couple guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, sure. I'm with you on the Peters thing. That one's a head scratcher to me. I mean, the dude's been here since January of 2024. He's been here all of 22 months, 21 months in full. Like, come on. The cupboard was massively bare when he got here, and they nearly went to the Super Bowl in his first year. We really, after all of these years together of, being in the position we're in right now this year, but at least having the luxury of no owner and a general manager and a head coach, a quarterback who were, instrumental in the team performing the way it did last year. This is one of those years that teams have in the NFL. 3, 4, 5 teams every year get hit this way, and it derails seasons. It just happens. Now, part of the discussion I get is about the quarterback, and is this going to be an annual discussion? Because if it is, then, even if they're healthy everywhere else, but he's in and out of the lineup, like with Baltimore over the years, that's been a problem. I get that. Let's go to Dave in Raleigh. Dave, thanks. Go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. I just I wanted you to take a look at that play where Jaden got hurt once again, because I've looked at it multiple times, and when he eludes the defensive end coming off the edge or linebacker, whatever it is, he looks up, and there's 2 receivers out there to the flat. I think one's the tight end who's covered, and the other guy is Debo. He's doing like a little 5-yard hook. He is open, and Jaden looks right at him, and I believe elects not to throw because he wants to run. I'd love to have you relook at that and see if you see it that way, because I think this tells the bigger story, that this guy instinctively wants to run, and I get it. He's great at it, but if I'm right and that this guy chose to run, like, that's going to have to come out of him.
I mean, remember last year, like, he's just slicing and dicing people up from the pocket week in and week out. The run's part of it, no doubt, but it's, last year, other than the opener, the instinct was to make a play with his arm first, leg second. So we're not that far removed from that. I think people tend to forget that and want to go with the present. In the present right now, nobody's winning. I'm going back to that play because I want to look at it again from these from the specific part of hold on, where is it? From the end zone view. He is under duress immediately.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll look at it again. Hold on. It's taking me a while to get there. Here it is. Yeah, so you got Debo, you got a tight end, you got Debo, and here where do you think he can throw it?
Okay,
I'm
hold
sorry.
on. Just look. Okay, as soon as he puts a move on the defensive end or
It's an RPO.
Is, right?
So he thinks that. By the way, the play here really, I don't know if it's a give, although I think in the particular instance that they're in, the situation of we don't want you, even exposed a little bit, but they had already dropped him back twice on that drive. He should have just handed it off. I mean, it was 2nd and goal from the 2. But there is immediate pressure, and the arm angle, which he'd have to get to unload it to Debo. Yeah, Debo's covered. Debo's covered. He could have thrown it and could have thrown it really low where only Debo could get it maybe, but this is not on him instinctively wanting to run. Look at the 4th and 1 that he throws to Bates. If that was the case earlier in the game, he would have kept it on that one because he could have easily run for the first down on that play to Bates. This is the pressure totally blowing up the play. That's my opinion.
Okay, obviously he blows it up, but can you just go with me for 1 second? When the guy that he puts a move on isn't making the tackle initially. He comes out of that break.
And then there's another guy right in his face.
Correct, but you're looking at it farther as he starts to go down the line. I'm saying as soon as he puts a move on the first guy that tries to tackle him.
The guy is, but he's got to protect the ball because that guy, even though he's not tackling him, is definitely if he pulls that ball back, it could get raked by 53. I mean, I think that's why he didn't pull it back there. And then when he gets to the point where maybe he could think about Debo's covered. It's not, that's not a Jaden deciding I gotta run. I'm not going to throw it. He's thrown it many times on the RPOs. Many times. I hear what you're saying, and I'm watching the play over and over again from the end zone, and the end zone play and the sideline play in particular, sideline view. I think when you want him to throw it to Debo, I think he thinks the ball's at risk from the backside, from the guy that he's just juked. He'd almost have to throw it underhanded.
Can you look at the sideline just to see if you see it differently from that angle?
I've watched it both angles twice sitting here talking to you. I think if he makes that throw to Debo, it's an incredible play, but I understand why he didn't feel like he could. If he cocks and throws to Debo when he is open for the split second, 53, who he's juked, has a chance to slap the ball out of his hands for a turnover. That's what I think. Okay. And I think by the time he gets a little bit of clearance, and it's not much, Debo's covered. And by the way, that's the read. I mean, it's an RPO to that side of the field. The interesting thing about looking at this again is that in close quarters on a condensed field, the linemen are not taught to go beyond a yard. So I know that this is an RPO. Dan Quinn has said it's an RPO, but typically with an RPO, the offensive linemen are blocking run. They're blocking run, and that's why the pass option has to get out quickly. They are, they're not going downfield, which tells me that they play it a little bit differently on a condensed field. But anyway, that's what I think, Dave. But I see what you see with a brief moment that Debo's open. I don't think he can make the throw when he's open because of the pressure.
Okay, I see it differently, but I appreciate your feedback. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Let's go to G. G, what's up?
Man, shout out to Iron, man. He made me realize that I really don't have a problem with him calling up here, saying his opinion on Jaden Daniels' frame and saying, along with others, that he's injury prone. I do have a problem with them always calling up here, speaking it into existence and not taking into account that people get hurt playing football and they just want to be right about his frame and his injury proneness. That's what I got a problem with. Keep speaking that into existence. Everybody
Well,
get hurt playing football.
he's not capable of actually speaking it into existence. You understand that?
No, but you know what I'm saying, Sheehan.
I know, but
I don't got a problem
we've
with
had
his
four.
opinion,
We've had
but
4 injuries now in 29 games. Okay, so there is some hard data that suggests that
same with Joe Burrow.
I understand that. No, but we're not talking about Joe Burrow. We're talking about Jaden Daniels.
I know.
We could talk about a lot of other quarterbacks. You're right, but we're talking about our guy.
I do not hit
4 times in 29 games.
I guarantee you rewind back to the 90s, you would not hear Ian talking about Steve Young needs to not run. I agree with Aqib Talib saying that he's being used as a running back. That's why I had a big problem with how Kingsbury is calling these plays. And that's why I ain't have a problem with him being on the field at the end of the game where it was an insurmountable lead to overcome. But I did have a problem with them not calling 4 straight simple handoffs to the running back plays to protect your man.
Yeah.
So that's my whole thing. Stop saying that stuff about his frame because, like my man Paulie said, he's been skinny his whole life. And if the frame was that big of a problem and you wanted this prototypical stud, like my man Doc say, Paul, then Andrew Luck or Cam Newton would have never got injured in their career. So for injuries happen, and chill out, let them recover. This is going to be a hard pill to swallow on the long rest of the season, but I think he will be able to bounce back, like Joe Burrow has showed after getting a devastating injury. And we just got to go through this hard time, Shane.
I think the one thing though that you've brought up, that is going to be an interesting part of the conversation going forward is that can you be successful without the quarterback being a part of the run game? In Baltimore, the answer would have been no for a few years. I think it's different now because I think Lamar's a more advanced, passer. With Jaden, I think the answer is you don't need him to be a part of the running game. He is absolutely capable of just being, the scrambling quarterback. You want the mobile quarterback. Everybody understands that. But I think 100%. On this team right now, their best chance of having success offensively, considering they're limited, is to have him as part of the run game. And I think that's what you'll see with Mariota on Sunday as well.
Exactly. And you said, and I'm glad you brought up the Ravens for that point, for the simple fact that's one of the reasons they did go out and get Derrick Henry to take some of that running pressure off of Lamar. That's why I looked back and did a deep dive in their rankings as an offensive line these last few years. We don't have that top-ranked type of Baltimore Ravens offensive line to support that type of
run. But they've tried to get it. They traded for Tunsil and they drafted a tackle in the first round.
And that's why I'm cool with the Tunsil. I know a lot of people calling for him not to get paid and get rid of him on this trade deadline, but I'm with they made moves, but we need to do better. And we just need to go through this hard time we're going through now.
Nobody's calling for him to get traded by the trade deadline.
No. Paulie said that to me yesterday. But what I'm saying is a lot of these other people
I know.
just need to
He's on hold, and Max put in the notes. He wants to talk about dealing Tunsil at the trade deadline. I mean, okay. Well, you're right. We can't run the football. Everybody wants us to run the football, and then you want to trade Tunsil. Now, he is a better pass blocker. Here's something for you, G. You ready for this? Do you know who's averaging nearly 5 yards a carry as a running back this year? Brian Robinson Jr. 4.9 yards per carry for the 49ers.
Hey, look, see, you know I was with pay the little $3.2 million because I love Brian Robinson Jr. I said he got dealt a bad hand coming here getting shot and with some incompetent people in charge. But that's past. He's moved along. We'll talk about the people that's here in my Doc Walker voice.
All right. Thanks. I'll talk to you later. Let's go right to Paulie because Paulie wants to talk trade deadline. 4 p.m. today. What do you got?
Hell to the W. What's up, big guy? How you doing, man?
I'm good.
I'm good, man. Hey, I was feeling good. Just got finished voting, and then I hear.
You just got finished what? You just got finished what?
Voting.
What kind of boating do you do?
No. Voting. He's exercising
Voting.
his civic duty.
I'm like, Paulie's out on a boat. Were you fishing? I didn't know. Oh, you got finished voting. Okay. So good for you. You did your civic duty. What's next?
Hey, I was out on a boat until the dude who's supposed to be my homie just started telling my trade secrets. Trade Tunsil, man.
All right. So you want to trade Tunsil today?
I want to trade Tunsil today, man.
Why?
And think about it. Like, he's good, but he's not nothing special. And we need the picks. And we need to start moving forward with a youth movement. Starting on Tuesday morning. Starting Monday morning after that debacle. You know? And I just sat there and heard you said that Jaden needs to be part of the running game. No, Jaden doesn't. The only part of the running game he needs to be part of is what you said, scrambling. The problem is that's
not exactly what I said. You kind of butchered it. What I said was he actually doesn't need to be a part of the running game to be successful. But on this team in this moment right now, just like Mariota needs to be a part of it and will be, I think Cliff looks at the receivers and looks at their overall, capability and says, well, if we're going to move the football, our quarterback's got to be a part of the run game. But anyway, continue.
With Mariota, yes. With Jaden, no. See, the problem is his scheme is soft. That's the problem. And I said this last year, that this team won despite Cliff Kingsbury. And now this year, this team is losing because he has a big part in it. The offense is predictable. It had to change from last year. Run again, like you just talked about Brian Robinson. That was my guy too. And a lot of people, a lot of the fans was calling for him to be cut and traded. And everybody loves Bill. Well, Bill looking like Brian Robinson last season. Because his offense, this run game is predictable. The shotgun stuff, you got to be able to mix it up. You got to be able to get on the center sometime. I mean, I don't like Cliff Kingsbury, bro. I didn't like him last year, and I didn't bite my tongue about that last year.
You've made that clear. Let me just. I want to share something with you. I want to share something with you. He doesn't remind me of Scott Turner. They're totally different in the way they attack. But I want to share something with you if you're willing to have it shared with you.
Hey, one more thing.
Did you hear what I said?
We need the pick. I'm uncomfortable today, shit. I'm gonna be uncomfortable for the rest.
Laramie Tunsil right now per PFF and per Next Gen is fourth and third respectively in pass blocking tackles in the NFL. So he's having an exceptional season as a pass blocker per the advanced numbers. And you want to trade him after we traded, hold on, a third, a seventh, a second, and a fourth. 4 picks. We got back one, a fourth rounder last year, and you want to trade him today.
Yes. You know why? Because Jaden was running for his life the other night. Matter of fact, every game he's been hurt in, he was running for his life. All 3 games. The Green Bay game, Dallas game, he's running for his life. All right, so we need the picks. We got, 5 picks?
6. We got 6 right now.
6. Okay, we got 6 picks, and they look like they're going to be pretty high picks the way this season is going.
Yeah,
so
they are.
Right. So we need to accumulate more picks and turn this roster over for real and put the rock, and get some good young players.
Do you want Adam Peters making the picks? Because a lot of our people are probably listening saying, don't do that.
I'm fine with Adam Peters making picks. I'm not fine with him bringing in expired food to the cabinet. To the cupboard, like we talked about last week. Man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only truly expiration is the players that are on 1-year deals. I mean, come on.
Listen,
Laramie Tunsil is in his prime right now. So you'd be trading away his prime elite level pass blocking left tackle.
What do you think we can get back for him?
I don't know. I know what we had to give up for him. So I don't
tell me you don't know, Sheehan. You got
okay, I'll tell you what we'll get back for him. You ready? We traded 4 picks for him. We won't get that much back for him at the trade deadline. We'd get back a second.
A second, and we'll get back more than one pick. A second and what?
A third and a fourth, or a second. Like a third and a fifth, maybe a second. That's what I think we'd get back for him. They traded a third, seventh, second, and fourth, and got back a fourth for him. So in net, essentially a second, third, and a seventh for him. I think we'd at the trade deadline, we'd get back a second for him, maybe.
And
that's what I think.
To make a run. And they did that to make a run, to seize the moment. Well,
it's not just for this year, though. It's not just for this year, Paulie. It's for the length of the rookie deal, and he's under contract for that. I think actually, if we're being serious here, we chalk this up to injuries, and we consider paying Laramie Tunsil in the offseason. So I'm at odds with your suggestion. I would not trade Laramie Tunsil today.
I don't want to pay a one-trick pony, man. You talking about somebody like Trent Williams to pass block and run block at a high level? Let's go. Stroke that check.
Well, let me go. Let me check out, because I don't think he's been that bad as a run blocker either.
Hey, listen, all I know is my IC. He's not that special. All I know is you drafted the tackle last year, Brandon Coleman, who played pretty well last year. He played okay. And you got to be able to go with your draft picks and your young guys.
Okay.
Let's get some return back. Hey, we should even think about trading Debo. Somebody will want Debo for.
Well, that's different, because he's not under contract next year, and you got to consider paying him next year. That's totally different than Tunsil. Tunsil is a left tackle. You've been around long enough to know how important left tackle is. And he's a damn good pass-blocking left tackle, which is an investment in your biggest investment, which is your quarterback, which you're going to make the biggest investment more likely than not in the history of the league in 2 off seasons. I'm keeping Tunsil. I'm not trading Tunsil.
And he still got beat down this year.
If you tell me that they think Connerly Jr. is ready to step in and be a left tackle, and they can get, a second and a third or a first for Tunsil, I'm all ears. But do you think they have that confidence in Connerly Jr. right now?
No, I know we made the playoffs last year with Brandon Coleman as a rookie, and he played pretty well. Okay, so where's the problem at?
Well, the problem is your investments need to be on defense. All right, I got to go. Hard break. See ya. Paulie, everybody. If you're on hold, we'll take a few more calls. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. We're free and live on the Odyssey app. I really doubt that Laramie Tunsil would get dealt today. I really doubt that could happen. But to just, further discuss this after Paulie introduced it into the bloodstream, into the trade deadline bloodstream, if you told me that behind closed doors, they're like, man, Josh Connerly would be an exceptional left tackle. Hit and miss as a right tackle, but we actually think the position we drafted him for to be the eventual left tackle he's ready for right now, and he's going to be great. And then on top of that, somebody's willing to deal a first, or let's just say like a second and a third for Tunsil. Yeah, I'd consider that for sure, because you don't have to pay him then, right? He's got 1 year left on his deal, 32 years old. And so what you're going to be paying for is his age 33 and beyond seasons if you extend him. And the year to extend him, if you really like the player and he's played at a very high level from a pass blocking standpoint, a better than average level as a run blocker, but at a very high level, top 5 in the league level as a pass blocker. We knew that coming in, that's what his, number one strength really was. But if you really felt like the guy you drafted was ready to be your left tackle and you could move, let's say, Coleman to right, or you were like, look, Coleman's always been the left tackle. He just can't play guard, which is why we had him inactive. Okay. Yeah, all right then. But other than that, you traded 4 picks for him because you were investing in the protection of your quarterback, and you were up against a team in your division that was super, super difficult to block. And you wanted to get bigger and better in the trenches. So you traded for one of the best pass blocking left tackles in the game, and you drafted a first-round tackle as well. I don't think he's getting dealt. Kurt in Hagerstown, thank you very much for holding. Go ahead.
My man Kevin, thanks for taking my call, man.
Sure.
Hey, so this time of year, to keep my sanity, I usually start creating profiles on college players and trying to play like a facto GM type thing. But I'm stuck on Matt Patricia as being target number 1 for Adam Peters to go out and open up the tampering. He is elite defensive coordinator. If you watch any of the Ohio State games this year, I'm not a fan of Ohio State, but they are suffocating on defense. It seems simple. It's an NFL concept. You can't read it pre-snap. There's so much movement going on. He confuses quarterbacks, and he just, it's lights out. I feel like a lot of times it's X's and O's. Sometimes it's Jimmy's and Joe's. Right now we're failing on both parts. We definitely don't have the Joes, but our X's and O's are sickening to the point where people are calling for people's jobs, and it seems necessary. So that's the first thing I want to throw out. And then the second thing, I still think they got people out of position. I love Mikey Sarenstill. I love Quan Martin. I think they're both the same position. I think they're both great nickel corners. They should never be on the outside. They should never be on number 1. They should be on number 2 to 3 from the outside every time. That leaves Amos, a young corner.
Well, Sammer still hasn't done well this year on number 2, number 3 inside at all. He's been targeted.
They should switch him with Quan because Quan hasn't been doing good at safety, and I really think he's great at nickel. I think he's better closer to the box.
Your phone's breaking.
I think he's better. Oh, my bad.
No, I got you back. Yeah, but I want to just go to your first thing.
In the box.
I want to go to your first thing.
Yeah, Matt Patricia.
Well, first of all, Patricia's doing, lights out job. College, high level college programs should be bringing in more talented pro defensive coordinators. They are lights out on defense. Can't wait for the Ohio State Indiana Big Ten title game. That's another subject. So here's the thing. Even if people in the know would tell you, it's not really a Joe Witt Jr. problem as much as it's a personnel problem. Okay, that's fine. But can you do a lot better than Joe Witt Jr.? The answer has to be yes. Okay, so in this offseason, if we wait that long, Dan Quinn's got to go out, to your point, and find himself a bona fide high-level defensive coordinator. People love coming and working with Dan Quinn. The organization is not repulsive to every single person outside of it like it used to be. You've got to go try to get a high-level defensive coordinator that's not, in the head coaching, carousel in the offseason. And that's a move that has to be made. I don't care that it's not all Joe Witt Jr., if that's the case. You can do better and a lot better, and you need to do a lot better at that spot. I agree with that. I don't know if Matt Patricia
Priority
would leave
number
Ohio
one, in my
State to
opinion.
come back here.
And also, if I want to throw out there, I think get ready for some Sabah action, because we're going to go back to that single menu playbook, one page, and it's going to look better. It's going to feel better. I just think things are going to run a little bit more smooth, and then we're going to get a bunch of nonsense, uneducated football people calling in saying, Jaden's not that great. But
we can't help those people, Kurt.
What bothers me is I went to bed on that game, and I'm so glad I fell asleep. It was the best decision I made that day. But they the scripted plays are horrible. I mean, if you're scrambling, running for your life on
the first three plays,
I mean, that made me want to go to bed right there. I said, I'm done with this. You're telling me you spent all week, you can't come up with a sail route or running back to the flat or a quick, just
I want a
anything
quick game,
to get in rhythm.
Yeah.
Just get in rhythm, man. 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, first down, move the chain. Get 6, 7 plays under your belt. Stop looking like you're just calling a backyard, flag football. It doesn't fit right. I mean, it doesn't feel right, and it's why you got people like Sabah calling in, room for backup quarterbacks, because when the backup quarterback comes in, the game plan gets simpler. And
I don't think there's anything more frustrating right now than the numbs that call in and say, yeah, they got the wrong quarterback. I can't help those people. You can't help them either. But to your point, what's interesting about
they're going to get simple.
Yeah.
They're going to get
what's interesting about the other night is
jumbo.
Yeah, I totally agree with why wasn't there easier stuff like in the first, 8, in the first 12, in the first 15. But the truth is they actually moved the ball a little bit, and then you got the penalties that derailed those drives. You did it on the strength of Jaden.
When the ball went off of Debo's face mask, I mean,
that
was just, things were rolling that game, and when that happened, it's like, you know what, this is the year we're looking at. But what's funny is it's probably going to flip around a couple times, and Mariota will probably keep us in the hunt, which I think is going to surprise people. But they got to make some changes, man.
I don't think they can stay in the hunt with this defense. I'm with you that the offense has some days coming up where there will be a better feeling about it, but I just don't think that they defensively can match up. I think Miami will have a field day with their defense in Madrid.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, real quickly.
Go ahead.
That second drive that ended with the face mask on the 3rd and 2 that he picked up, it started with Krosky Merritt. It started with Krosky Merritt, Jaden, but then Krosky Merritt for 9 yards, which set up the 3rd and 1. And then they got the 4th and 1 debates. So there was some effort, after the first 10 plays, which were 9 called passing plays. But to your point, I would have liked to have seen some quick stuff, some easy stuff. And I didn't think I got that, even though it was actually penalties that derailed those drives. All right, I got to run. Sorry, looking at the clock right now. For those that I didn't get to, I apologize. Maybe we'll come back to it at the end of the hour. But I do want to take a moment when we come back to go around the league, which we didn't have a chance to do, and talk about some of the amazing games from Sunday before the Sunday night debacle. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the Team980.com.
And here we go. They rush 5. He backpedals. Somehow he gets it all the way down to the 5. And it's knocked down incomplete. And the Bills have won it.
So there was probably round 1 of a 2-round Kansas City Buffalo affair. We're going around the NFL because we didn't have a chance to do it yesterday. Mahomes' last-ditch effort on a Hail Mary. Interesting that 2 of the strongest armed quarterbacks in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes and Joe Flacco, on Hail Marys really weren't able to get it where they wanted to get it. Part of that was pressure, I'm sure. But Mahomes, rough day for him. Kansas City was in it, even down 28-13 when they scored. They went for a 4th and 17. This is what you can do when you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. It is early in the 4th quarter, 14 minutes and 20 seconds left in the game. It's 28-13, and on 4th and 17, they went for it. And, of course, he finds Rashee Rice for 29 yards, moved the sticks. They scored. They made the 2-point conversion. It was 28-21. They had the ball back with a chance. They had the ball back after a missed field goal at the end. But Buffalo gets round 1. They're now 5-0 against Kansas City in the regular season. 5-1 against the Chiefs in the regular season since 2020. They're still 0-4 in the postseason. But Josh Allen, 23 of 26 in the game, a touchdown, no interceptions, and another big game for James Cook, who is having a massive season. And in the last 2 weeks, he's rushed for 330 yards against Carolina on the road, a good run-stopping team, and against the Chiefs at Buffalo, trying to keep pace with New England in the AFC, goes to 6-2. Meantime, the Chiefs fall to 5-4, 2 full games behind Denver, but still with 2 left against the Broncos, including a game in Denver a week from Sunday. Let's go to Cincinnati for the game of the day on Sunday and one of the games of the year.
Williams slings it. Williams. Loveland bangs off his man. He's going to score. Home. Colston Loveland in a jaw dropper. 58 yards on the catch and run from the rookie.
So that was your game winner. Of course, nobody thought it was over with the way this 4th quarter was played. An amazing final few minutes of that football game. Joe Flacco threw an interception with exactly 2 minutes and 46 seconds left, down 41-27. Okay, so that's game over, except it wasn't. They got the ball back. He threw a touchdown pass with 1:43. They recovered an onside kick. They did the thing down 8 where they went for 2, so it was 41-35, and then he led them down the field. He threw a touchdown pass to Josevich, which gave him the lead, 42-41. The play on this final drive that really wasn't talked about as much as the Caleb Williams to Loveland touchdown pass was Caleb Williams on 3rd and 10 from their own 28. So you're down to 2 plays. You need field goal range. And he scrambled under pressure for 14 yards. And they used their last time out. There were 25 seconds left, which gave them new life. The next play was the touchdown pass. So give Caleb Williams credit. You know, in the game, he threw for 283 touchdowns, no picks. But it was this huge 14-yard run on 3rd and 10 on that final drive that ended up really being the game saver, because at that point, you figure against Cincinnati's defense, they're going to have a chance to get in field goal range. In this game, the Chicago Bears, who now have won 5 of their last 6 games, against Cincinnati's defense, the Bears, 47 points, 576 yards. Cincinnati's defense, ours is bad, and I said, you know, partly out of emotion that it's probably worse than Cincinnati's and Dallas's defense. It's not. It's not. Cincinnati's is the worst we've seen in the league in a long time. They became the first team in history to score 38 or more in back-to-back games and lose both of them. Last week, 39-38 against the Jets. This week, 47-42 against the Bears. Joe Flacco, my God, does it help to have good receivers? Joe Flacco in this game, 31 of 47 for 470 yards, 4 touchdowns in the game. Since joining the Bengals, he has thrown 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. Now, one of the picks was the Hail Mary at the end of the game the other day. So it's really 9-1 since joining the Bengals. And he's averaging 340 yards passing a game. He can throw it, man. There's no doubt. There's no question about Flacco's ability to throw the football. But their defense is just terrible. It's too bad for Cincinnati. 2 losses at home, 39-38 and 47-42 to the Jets and the Bears. If somehow they had won those 2 games, they would actually be 5-4 and a half game out in the AFC North. Let's go to Detroit for the Vikings and the Lions.
Kick is blocked. It is picked up by Minnesota, too. It looks like Isaiah Rodgers, who already has 2 touchdowns on defense on the year, picks it up. Big return in Minnesota. What a play.
Look, there wasn't like anything super impressive about J.J. McCarthy's day. Couple of key throws, no doubt. Had a really nice touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson. Jefferson pulled it in with one hand. He was 14 of 25 for 143 yards in the game. He got sacked 6 times, threw a pick in the game. But defensively, they got to Goff, sacked him 5 times in the game. Detroit lost a fumble in the game. There was a blocked punt in the game. The Lions missed a field goal in the game. And Minnesota came away with a stunning 27-24 victory that keeps their season alive at 4-4. How about that NFC North? Chicago wins, Minnesota wins, Green Bay and Detroit lose. The division is Green Bay at 5-2-1, Detroit at 5-3, Chicago at 5-3, and Minnesota at 4-4. Wow. I don't know through 8 games, we've ever seen, because all of those teams have taken their bye, if we've seen a division that bunched up without a losing record. Pretty amazing. Minnesota with a stunner. Of course, Detroit comes in to FedEx, to Northwest Field on Sunday afternoon. Really desperate for a win after losing to the Vikings at home as a 9-point favorite. And remember now, that's 2 losses in their last 3 games because they lost to the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Some people, including yours truly, thought that maybe Detroit was the best team in the NFC. Stunning loss, although the Vikings +9 was a smell test pick and never in doubt. Let's go to Tennessee for the Chargers and the Titans.
Los Angeles, they fake the shovel pass. Herbert rolls the pocket, now heads toward the end zone, slides in safely. Touchdown Chargers, 26-17.
This game was close, man. There was in this game, there was a big interception return early in the game. There was a punt return in the game. I mean, Tennessee started off 14-7 lead, courtesy of a pick 6 and a 67-yard punt return in the game. That can keep you close when you get those kinds of plays. But the Chargers got a win that would have been a devastating loss, but it was a competitive loss. Tennessee's kind of hung in there, The Colts ran them out of the building. The Patriots, actually, I think in that game against the Patriots, it was like a 14-13 game at halftime, something like that. But they're just not very good. The Cam Ward development, I've watched him a couple of times. I think he's got something there. They just don't have much around him at this point. But God, did the Chargers need that? They get the Steelers at SoFi on Sunday Night Football, and I promise you that will be a road game for the Chargers Sunday night, because Pittsburgh fans travel big time, and SoFi has been the destination for visiting teams. That and Vegas are the 2. Harder to get in, with Raider fans in Vegas, much easier with Charger fans in SoFi. Let's go to Lambeau for the upset of the day, or certainly one of them.
Hold is down. The kick is up. Into the wind. It is good! Ryan Fitzgerald delivers. And the Panthers, a 2-touchdown underdog, come into Lambeau and pull off the upset.
So a 9-point dog wins outright in Minnesota. A 2-touchdown dog in Carolina wins in Green Bay. Did you guys know that the Carolina Panthers are 5-4 and can run the crap out of the football and pretty good at stopping the run? Rico Dowdle comes back as the primary back after Chuba Hubbard last week got inserted back into the lineup. And Dowdle, 25 carries, 130 yards. He's rushed for 735 yards through just over half the season. He's on track for 1,300 to 1,400 yards this year. And the Panthers pull off an absolute stunner. I can't figure the Packers out. The Panthers lost last week to the Bills, in part because Bryce Young wasn't there. They started Andy Dalton. Young didn't have a great day, but he protected the football for the most part, and they hung in there. And it was really their defense that was awesome against Jordan Love and Green Bay. Love had a pick. They also had a fumble in the game. And it's the NFL, man, on any given Sunday, but it's more than that at this point. We know that basically every game is in play. That's why you can't count Washington out of any game, because they have a shot. Carolina, though, I will tell you, pretty good defensive football team. I know they got beat 40-9, but they got players. Derek Brown is a monster. J.C. Horn can play. They've got really, really good defensive players. I think they're a well-coached team. Stunning win. The Panthers on the road. I mean, the Carolina Panthers have a couple of those. You know, they shut out the Falcons, remember, 30-0. They beat the Cowboys. And now they've not the Cowboys are great, but they were an underdog in that game. And now at the Packers, with the Saints and Falcons coming up with a chance to get to 7-4 in that division. You know, Carolina has not played Tampa once yet. They play Tampa twice in the final 3 weeks of the season. Is it possible, Max, that Carolina, who I think had the lowest over-under on win total this year, or certainly one of them, right? Wasn't it 4.5?
Yeah, it was 4.5.
I mean, they've got the Saints, the Falcons. They got the Saints twice. They've got the Falcons. That could be 3 more wins, maybe. They got the 49ers, Rams, and Seahawks, too. But could they, go into those final 3 weeks, through 14 games as, say, a 7-7 team with a chance to catch Tampa Bay? Not out of the question. It really isn't.
Certainly play for the wild card, too.
When you can run the football and you can stop the run, man, that goes a long way to keeping you in a lot of football games, and they can really run the football.
Helps when you got J.C. Horn on the back end, too.
Yeah, no, they're talented on defense. Derek Brown's having an all-pro season right now at D tackle. Let's go to Houston for one of the games of the day going into it.
Nix looking with time, floats it alone on the sideline. Harvey will walk in for a Denver touchdown.
Yeah, so that came late. That gave, with a 2-point conversion, that tied the game up in the fourth quarter. If you don't know the story in this game, C.J. Stroud knocked out with Houston looking pretty good. They opened up that game looking like the better team. They were up 6-0, but he got knocked out early, concussed, did not come back into the game. Davis Mills came in, didn't play that badly. And it was just, an absolute defensive war between two of the best defensive teams in the league. And Denver comes away with an 18-15 win in that game. But CJ Stroud concussed. They need him. I think Houston's a really good football team on defense in particular. And I think Stroud, I said last week, I think they can make a run, even knowing where Indy was at that point, and they still had 2 games left with the Colts. That was one they really needed to get, and I think they would have gotten it had CJ Stroud stayed in the game. We'll see what his condition is coming up, but Denver continues to roll. The Broncos right now in first place in the AFC West with a 7-2 mark. The Broncos have won 6 games in a row. A couple of them barely. The Philadelphia comeback, the unbelievable comeback against the Giants, barely hanging on in London against a bad Jets team. And then this one probably needing that injury to win that game. They play their first against Kansas City a week from Sunday in Denver. They're Thursday night this week at home against the Raiders. If you haven't seen Denver play, they are really good on defense. They have Nick Bonito, who is he leading the league in sacks? If not, he's certainly close to it. They just have a ton of players. Hufanga, the player that used to play for the 49ers. They've got John Franklin Myers, who's doing a really good job on that D-line. Bonito, as mentioned. Cooper, who can really play. They've got excellent, excellent players on defense, and they're well coached. Denver at 7-2. We'll take a break. We still have not yet gotten to the Pittsburgh Indy game, which was incredible, as was the game in Vegas, which included the longest field goal in NFL history. That next.
Pierce, 27 first-round picks this year for the Falcons. May over the middle. He's got Diggs. Stephon Diggs at the 5. Diggs, stiff arm, diving for the pylon. Touchdown! What a play by Stephon Diggs!
Okay, I watched again a lot of the Patriots this week in the 1 o'clock window. And the reason I did it is for the 4th straight week, I was on the opposite side, plus the points. Going back to the Saints game, I was on the opposite side. The Titans, I was on the opposite side. The Browns, I was on the opposite side. Finally, the 4th time was a charm. Falcons +6 came home. So look, if people want to, if people, and I don't know, I'm not paying attention to all the reactions. This was a game in which you could say, wow, Drake May takes a lot of hits. He makes some bad decisions. He threw a pick. He fumbled twice, lost a fumble, gets sacked a lot. I actually would go the opposite. In watching this game, he got pressured. He hung in there, and he was a tough SOB in this game. And he ended up making huge throws in this game. I mean, I didn't know what the stats were until I just looked at him. 19 of 29 for 259, 2 touchdowns, a pick, sacked 6 times, had 2 fumbles, lost one of them. But this is one of those games where the real nitpicky, they don't watch any other quarterbacks would say, ooh, I mean, he's taken too many sacks. He's taken too many hits, and he does take some vicious hits. And he turned it over twice. Could have easily been 3 or 4 turnovers. I actually had the opposite. Atlanta came out. They were the desperate football team. They played like it defensively. Last week, I mean, Tagovailoa, and they ate Atlanta alive. Atlanta couldn't get off the field against Miami. They came out. They were hungry in this game. They were coming after May, and he made one big-time throw after another. I have no idea what his advanced, numbers were in this game, but I would have given him high marks despite the sacks and turnovers because I thought he was a badass in this game. And it hurt me because every single time it looked like he was dead to right, and sometimes he was. I was like, he'd come back and he'd make one big throw and one big play after another. He's good, man. He's legit good. He does take, I think, too many hits. Some of them, man, he gets his eggs scrambled a lot in some of these games. He's second in the league in sacks taken, but he throws the ball downfield. He is a fearless dude. He's athletic. He throws with great touch. Like him a lot. I liked him coming out. I didn't like him as much as Jaden. Didn't like him as much as Penix Jr., the quarterback he faced. But I did like him. Thought he was absolutely a top 10, top 15 pick in the draft. And everything they're doing with him, it's got to be easy because you can see IQ-wise he's ahead of it. I mean, he's got Diggs. He's got Travion Henderson, who's really starting to play at a high level, the pick from Ohio State. Like early in the season, he wasn't doing much, right? Am I right about that, Max? Travion Henderson? Remember he returned the opening kickoff in the preseason for a touchdown against
everybody
us?
Thought he was going to be great, and now I think he's on like Vrabel's bad side or something. He just hasn't really been.
Not on
anything.
Sunday, he wasn't. He got all the carries. And he got he had multiple catches. I'm looking at his numbers right now. Yeah. Last 2 games have been the breakout games. 10 for 75 against the Browns, 14 for 55, and 4 catches for 32 against the Falcons. Look, the Patriots have not played a very difficult schedule. I think we all understand that. The teams they are playing have not been very good, but they do own the win over the Bills on Sunday Night Football. That's the one they got that looks really, really good right now. The other wins, look, the Panthers, they crushed, and the Panthers have proven to be a better team. But like their last 4, right, after the big win against Buffalo, Saints, Titans, Browns, Falcons. But I'm telling you, the Falcons went after him, and I thought he hung in there. Here's the thing about, the evaluation of quarterbacks and the conversation of quarterbacks. First of all, everybody gets stuck on their own guy, and they just watch that guy. Watch the rest of the league. Quarterbacks make bad throws. Quarterbacks turn the ball over occasionally. But it's what you do in that same game. Are you coming back, firing away, fearless, and making plays and making more good plays than bad plays? May had some tough plays Sunday. He made more good plays than bad plays, and that's why they won the game. They play Tampa this week. I haven't looked at the line. What's the line this week? He's getting a great defensive coordinator in Todd Bowles. Tampa's off a bye week, right? Tampa had a bye Sunday?
Yes. Yeah,
Tampa's a 3-point favorite at home. 3-point favorite at home. New England can definitely win that game. I was not a believer in the Patriots. I can look at the schedule and be intellectual and say, yeah, prove it against somebody good. The Buffalo game was flukish. They turned it over a couple of times in that game. No, it wasn't. Nothing's flukish about this team. This is the toughest team they're going to face because after this, it's Jets, Bengals, Giants. I mean, my God, there's no way they're not going to win 11 games and be in the postseason at this point. So we'll judge them based on what happens in the postseason. But I thought that in the games that I've watched Drake May, there have been moments where he's been so impressive. But in this game, when there were tough moments, sacked 6 times, turned it over twice, could have been 4 turnovers in this game. But it was the throws that he made in the midst of an adverse situation. That's where you got to judge these guys. Like Jaden's game last year against Philly, where they're down and they've turned the ball over and he's thrown a pick or 2 in that game. Was it 2 picks in that game? And then he's still firing away and he drives them and leads them from way behind in the fourth quarter. Those are the games. Sometimes the games you truly measure a quarterback are not, games in which you think, oh, well, it's not, these games aren't perfect most of the time. They're not. And he was far from perfect. But what he did when it mattered the most was deliver some big time throws. Where are they, by the way, as a third down offense? It seems like every third down they deliver on. I don't know. The game Sunday, 8 for 12 on third down. I didn't even know that. I knew it was good, though. They've got to be way up there on third down conversions, right? Let's see. They are, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth overall in third down offense. They're 42.9%. By the way, you know what they're doing? I didn't know this. I mean, I knew it from just watching them that they're good on fourth down. 10 of 12 this year on fourth down. Who does that sound like? A team last year that was 20 of 23 on the way to something like that? I'm looking at the fourth down stats for the season. God, there's some good fourth down teams. Indy, 15 of 17 this year. 15 to 17. Not bad. Highest percentage of fourth down makes. The Patriots are third. I think there's like little chance now that New England could possibly, with that schedule, there's no way they can miss the postseason. I guess the question will be, can Buffalo keep track so that when they play on December 14th in Foxborough, that game means, potentially the division. We'll see. All right, let's go to the Meadowlands for the 49ers and the Giants.
First down and 10. And the call here, Pooney with the block, and he's going to take it in for the touchdown. 18-yard touchdown run. Brian Robinson, first as a 49er.
Yeah, Brian Robinson Jr., I mentioned, on the season now. He had 5 runs for 53 yards, including that 18-yarder, stiff-armed somebody on the way in. Brian Robinson Jr., if you're interested, he's got 197 yards on 41 carries for the season. That is 4.9 yards per carry. That was his first touchdown rushing of the season. Christian McCaffrey's been outstanding. He's having a Christian McCaffrey season, which is why with Mac Jones, not Brock Purdy, although I don't know if there's a big difference between the two anyway. Maybe there's a small difference. They're getting healthier. Kittle's been back for a few weeks. Juwan Jennings has been back for a few weeks. They added Kendrick Bourne when it was between Washington and San Francisco. That would have been a big ad for Washington had they been able to pull it off and bring Kendrick Bourne in here. He's having a really good season in San Francisco. Look, they lost, Bosa. They lost Fred Warner. That's hurt them, and it's hurt them defensively. The Giants, rolled up points and yards in this game. and first downs with Jackson Dart and without Scattaboo. But the 49ers were too much. They end up winning the game 34-24. Look, the Niners are 6-3 despite all these injuries, but it's important to keep in mind they barely beat the Saints. They barely beat the Cardinals. They barely beat the Falcons, and they were in a tussle with the Giants. They lost to the Bucs. They lost to the Texans pretty handily. They did beat the Rams on that Thursday night game when they went in injured. That was their most impressive win of the year. They get the Rams Sunday in their second match with their NFC West rivals this coming Sunday in Santa Clara. Big game in the NFC West. That is for sure. Although I'm not so sure we didn't see the best team in the NFC West Sunday night. I think the Rams are probably right there with Seattle, though. Let's go to Pittsburgh for the Colts and the Steelers.
From Steelers fans left and right. Jones to throw it. Intercepted! It's picked off by Wilson! Another huge play by the Steelers defense.
Yeah, this was this was a game in which Daniel Jones, as some of you non-mathematicians would describe it, as regressed to the mean. I love that. He had 5 turnovers in the game, 3 picks, 2 fumbles, got sacked 5 times. Where's the Pittsburgh defense been all year? Well, Sunday it arrived in the form of turnovers. The funny thing about this game, the very beginning of the game, Indy all the way down the field, touchdown. And then they're all the way down the field and then started the turnover barrage. They fumbled in the red zone, up 7-0, about to go up 14-0. And Pittsburgh gets a big win. I'm not buying into the Baltimore thing yet in the AFC North. I think Pittsburgh has enough to kind of keep them at arm's length and end up winning the division, maybe with a 9-8, maybe a 10-7, something like that record. You know, that final game of the season is in Pittsburgh, Ravens Steelers. That could be for the AFC North when all is said and done. Aaron Rodgers, another solid game, 25 of 35, no turnovers, no bad plays. They couldn't run the ball, which is something they've been able to do recently. But he's having a really solid year. And now if the defense can come around a little bit, Pittsburgh is going to be dangerous. All right, let's finish it up with the Rams and the Saints.
Hill, bottom of your screen. 4th down and 4. Shuck is picked off. Could not find a receiver. And Emmanuel Forbes comes up with the interception.
Yes, that Emmanuel Forbes, who in the game had 4 pass breakups and an interception. His first of the season as an LA Ram. The Rams rolled against Tyler Shuck and the Saints 34-10. Man, Stafford's got some receivers, doesn't he, when Puka Nacua is in the lineup and Devontae Adams is in the lineup. That is quite the combination. There are a couple of really good combinations. You know, Lamb and Pickens, obviously Higgins and Chase, Nacua and Adams, pretty damn good, especially when you consider they got a running back in Kyron Williams who can go for, 100 like he did on Sunday, 114. I think the Rams are an awfully good football team with Stafford healthy. 4 touchdown passes. The ball barely hit the ground. They rolled the Saints in Tyler Shuck's first start, 34-10 to get to 6-2. They've got that big game Sunday afternoon against the 49ers on the road. That is the big 425 game. It was going to be Washington, Detroit, but I think 49ers Rams now a much more important game. And the Rams on the road in Santa Clara Sunday are a 3.5-point favorite. We did have one other game to get to because we wanted to talk about what happened in this game. So let's go to Vegas for Jacksonville and the Raiders.
68 yards away. It's up there. It's out there. And it's good. It's good from 68.
Yeah, that's the NFL record. Cam Little, end of the first half. The Jacksonville kicker who in the preseason kicked a 70-yard field goal at the end of the first half, breaks the NFL record from 68 yards out. If you've seen it, you know that it's probably good from 70, 71, 72 yards out. drilled it right down the middle. Ended up being a massive field goal in the game because the Jags won by a point. When the Raiders in overtime, after giving up a touchdown, scored a touchdown themselves, went for 2 in the win at the very end of overtime. And Jacksonville hangs on, and Cam Little has a 68-yard field goal. You know, Brandon Aubrey last night attempted a 68-yard field goal at the end of the first half on Monday Night Football and was wide left, but had the distance easily. Jacksonville, I don't know, man. I don't see it with them in that division. I think Indy and Houston are both better, but they came away with the win. They are a 5-3 football team with the Texans coming up Sunday on the road. All right, I got a what do you got or two when we come back, including a freshman performance last night on the first night of college basketball that was unreal. That's next. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. In case you missed it last night, Commanders linebacker Frankie Louvu has been suspended for 1 game after he received a 3rd fine relating to hip drop tackles. He will appeal his suspension ahead of the matchup against Detroit. His status will remain in question until a conclusion has been reached. And the Cowboys lose on Monday Night Football to the Cardinals 27-17. Stout defense for Arizona held the Cowboys to just 1 touchdown throughout the game, and Marvin Harrison had a career-high 7 catches for 96 yards and a tud. The Wizards, they took on the Knicks last night. Alex Sarr comes into his own with 19 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, but no match for Karl Anthony Towns, who put up 33, 13, and 5 of his own. Wizards fall 119-102. Trade deadline day across the NFL. Some news breaking recently. Jacoby Myers has been traded from the Las Vegas Raiders to the Jacksonville Jaguars in exchange for a 4th round and a 7th round pick. The Dallas Cowboys are reportedly nearing a trade for Logan Wilson from Cincinnati, and the Eagles have already traded for corners Jair Alexander and Michael Carter, as well as edge rusher Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins. Commanders have reportedly received interest in Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti. We'll have all the Commanders trade info for you and more right here on the Team 980. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live every day from 10 to 1, and you can catch Den's office throughout all football season. Don't forget to hit the like button whenever you do decide to join us and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
So college basketball got underway last night. I'm a big fan. I know most of you know that about me. We don't do a lot of college basketball talk during football season because most people honestly don't care as much as they once did. College basketball, as I've described in the last few years, has become kind of a 1 month out of the sport, out of the calendar sport. March is important. People get into it, brackets, the whole thing. And now really with, the transfer portal and what's going on, it's really hard to, identify which teams are going to be good, which aren't. Purdue, for those of you wondering, is the number 1 ranked team coming into the season. The reason for that is they've got one of the player of the year candidates, Braden Smith, coming back. They just got players that people are familiar with. So that's what you're going to get this time of year is familiarity will, equate to a higher ranking if that familiarity was good. Purdue had some good players. Some of those players are back. They're number 1. Houston has some of those players back. They're number 2. The defending champ Florida Gators, they're number 3. Although they've got a lot of new players, but a lot of high recruits. But last night's Florida game is what I wanted to talk about. They opened up with number 13 ranked Arizona. This game was on TNT last night. TNT's got college basketball games. Did they have that last year? I don't even know. By the way, Kevin Willard's Villanova team opened up against BYU after that. And the number 1 high school player in America plays for BYU. He looked pretty good in the opener. I watched the Terps last night, Monday Night Football, and then some of the college basketball. Florida does have Alex Condon back, on their team. Koa Pete. I want you guys to remember this name, Koa Pete. He was a top 15 prospect, I think, in America. Arizona kid, went to Arizona, plays for Arizona. 6'8", 230. For a freshman player in his debut game against the defending champions last night, Pete had 30 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 2 block shots. He wasn't, firing up every chance he had. He was 11 of 18 field goals. He is a in the paint player. I think he's got a stroke that he can probably shoot the 3. He did not attempt a 3. This last year, I told you guys about Derek Queen being kind of, they called him Baby Jokovic. And Derek Queen, by the way, playing pretty well for New Orleans. They're a terrible team so far. Koa Pete is not necessarily a Baby Jokovic, but the style of play is similar to Queen in that he's a basketball player, man. He can handle it. He has all the old school moves, up and unders, jump hooks. He can face and fade away off, 1 foot Euro style. It was an entertaining watch. This dude dominated Florida, and they won the game 93-89, I think was the final score. 93-87 was the final score. But I know that there were other players coming in as freshmen that were more heralded than Pete. I can't imagine that I'm going to watch a player better than him as a freshman because he is ready now. That's why people were excited about Derek Queen last year. It's like he's ready now. Like he's got the body, he's got the game, he's got, old school moves. He's got great hands, great touch, great feel. And that's what this dude has. I thought I was watching this year's, slightly smaller version of Derek Queen. God darn, what a player to watch in his first game. Really, really impressed. Koa Pete, Arizona. Meantime, the Terps put out a team last night. Nobody knew who was playing. Apparently, 2 of their best players were in boots, and they're not going to play for a little while. Buzz Williams dealing with a lot of injuries here early in the season. They played Coppin State. Coppin State is not supposed to be anything. And this was, Maryland was a 28.5-point favorite. They didn't win by 28.5, in part because Coppin State threw up some threes in this game that went in that were just amazing. But I'll tell you what, man, one game, and the freshman, Darius Adams, who had committed initially to UConn, but changed his mind and is at Maryland, from New Jersey, Manasquan, New Jersey. I've got some relatives in Manasquan. And Darius Adams, top 30 player in the country, I thought he looked totally ready to play and play well as a freshman. 16 points in the opener. A couple rebounds, couple assists, couple steals in the game. Maryland really shot free throws well last night. They shot the three well. They had 8 threes in the first half, 10 for the game. I thought they forced up some threes in the second half because they got in love with what they made in the first half. But I liked a lot of the players. Pharrell Payne, Terp fans, you know him from Minnesota. And then last year he was at A&M with Buzz. 6'9", 6'10", 250, total athlete. I loved the transfer from Virginia, Elijah Saunders. I thought he looked super high IQ, can really shoot it and stretch it, as a kid that's, 6'8", 230, something like that, and, fully developed. Loved the kid from Kansas, David Coit. I think they call him Diggy is his nickname. Played at Northern Illinois, first of all, played at Kansas last year. Sensational in the MAC at Northern Illinois. I loved the first game that he played. He didn't even start, came in off the bench. Really high IQ, plus he can shoot it. Love the kid from Washington State who played with Coit, I think. Isaiah Watts, he can really shoot it. And then the guy that was a bit of a surprise for me, was in the starting lineup, was Mills, number 7. He was outstanding as a shooter, as a defender, high energy. I think they got some really good players. It'll take time for them to put it together. Maryland's been on like the, periphery of the all too early, NCAA tournament bracket stuff. They're like last 4 in, first 4 out kind of a thing. It's a long season. Nobody even knows what they have. And again, 2 of their best players, Solomon and Miles Rice, who transferred from Indiana, were not available to play. I don't know if they're going to be available to play against Georgetown, but I liked they've got some athletes, they've got some shooters. It's Coppin State. I get it. And Maryland's got a schedule, man. They play Georgetown Friday night. The Hoyas beat Morgan State in their opener last night. Then they play Marquette on November 15th on the road. Then they go to Vegas, where they're going to play UNLV and Gonzaga Thanksgiving week. And then they've got, Big Ten games against Iowa and Michigan in December. Michigan's top 6, 7 in the country. Then they play Virginia at John Paul Jones in Charlottesville. All of this before the first of the year. So it's going to be quite the grind schedule-wise. We'll know a lot about the Terps by the time we get to the first of the year. But at the same time, because it's a completely new team, may take a while to really figure out what they have. But I think they've got some talent. On the team. And Buzz, Buzz has won everywhere he's been. It was a new experience. We had him on, Max, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, right in August at some point. He had never had to go into a situation where he didn't have one player on scholarship. He had to go out and get 15 new players. We'll see. Busy night, though, on the first night of college hoops. And I'm telling you, this Koa Pete plays for Arizona. He looks to me like a potential top 5 pick future. Maybe he's already projected that way, and I'm just, Texas and Duke, though, tonight. We'll get to see what Duke has here early in the season. All right, that's it. Back tomorrow.